The words hit me like a physical blow, even though I was expecting them. "Take me to the mall by noon," my sister Rachel announced, walking into my room without knocking, designer sunglasses perched on her head like a crown. The taste of copper flooded my mouth as I stared at the clock. 11:47 a.m. My interview was in exactly 43 minutes. "My name is Lauren, I'm 25, and I used to believe that hard work would eventually pay off. This is the story of how I learned that sometimes you have to make your own justice." I'd been preparing for this moment for 3 months. The tech startup interview I'd landed after sending out over 200 applications, after surviving on ramen and rejection letters, after watching my college friends climb corporate ladders while I served their Friday night drinks. My navy blazer hung perfectly pressed on the closet door. My portfolio sat ready by the bed, filled with projects I'd built during sleepless nights between my 3 part-time jobs. "I can't," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "My interview is at 12:30 downtown." Rachel's laugh was sharp and dismissive. "Cancel it. I promised the girls I'd be there, and you know how Dad gets when I'm disappointed." She examined her manicured nails like the conversation was already over. The familiar knot formed in my stomach. Rachel was 22 and had never worked a day in her life, but somehow her mall trips carried more weight in this house than my entire future. I watched her text casually on her phone, probably telling her friends she'd be there soon, assuming I'd fold like I always did. "No," I said quietly. "Not this time." Her head snapped up, eyes wide with genuine shock. Nobody told Rachel no in this house. Not Mom, not Dad, and definitely not me. "Dad!" she yelled down the hallway, her voice piercing the morning quiet like a fire alarm. Within seconds, I heard his heavy footsteps on the stairs, the sound that had made my chest tighten since childhood. He appeared in my doorway, already red-faced, already furious before hearing a single detail. "What's this? I'm hearing about you refusing to help your sister." His voice filled the small room like smoke. "I have a job interview," I said, forcing myself to meet his eyes. The first real opportunity I've had since graduating. Dad's expression twisted into something cruel. "Your sister needs to maintain her social connections. Those girls' parents own businesses in this town. They matter." He stepped closer, and I instinctively pressed back against my dresser. "You and your little dreams. Nobody's ever going to hire you for anything important anyway." The words landed like slaps, but something inside me had hardened over the past 3 months of rejection and struggle. I thought about the nights I'd stayed up coding, while Rachel posted Instagram stories from expensive restaurants. I thought about the loan payments I made while she bought designer handbags. I thought about the respect I'd never earned in this house, despite trying for 25 years. "I'm going to my interview," I said, surprised by how calm my voice sounded. Dad's face darkened. "You'll take her, or you can find somewhere else to live." The ultimatum hung in the air between us like a challenge. Rachel smirked from the hallway, already savoring her victory. Mom appeared behind her, arms crossed, wearing her usual expression of disappointed resignation whenever I dared to inconvenience the family dynamic. I picked up my car keys from the nightstand. "Then I guess I'm finding somewhere else to live." The silence that followed was profound. Dad's mouth actually fell open. Rachel's smirk flickered with uncertainty. I walked past all 3 of them, down the stairs and out the front door, while my heart hammered against my ribs. Sitting in my car in the driveway, hands still trembling from the confrontation, I called the one person who'd always believed in my potential, my former roommate, Emma, who worked in HR at a different branch of the same company I was interviewing with. "Lauren, what's wrong?" Her voice was immediately concerned. "My family just tried to make me cancel my interview to drive my sister shopping," I said, watching Dad pace angrily past the front window. "I said no, and now I'm homeless." "Good for you," Emma said fiercely. "Text me the address. I'm picking you up in 15 minutes. We're going to make sure you nail this interview, and then we're figuring out your next step." The interview went better than I'd dared to hope. I connected with the team lead, impressed the technical director, and walked out feeling like I might actually belong in their sleek downtown office. Emma took me to her apartment afterward, insisting I stay the night while I figured out my next move. That's when my phone started buzzing with messages from Rachel. "You're so selfish. Dad is furious. You ruined my entire day." "Hope your stupid interview was worth losing your family." "Don't bother coming back. We're done with you." I showed the messages to Emma, who read them with growing anger. "They're manipulative and cruel," she said, "but at least now you know where you stand." 3 days later, Emma called me with news that made my blood run cold. "The company wants to offer you the position," she said, "but there's something you need to know. Your father called our corporate office yesterday." My stomach dropped. What did he say? I realized with growing dread that he'd probably gotten the company information from my interview confirmation email, which I'd printed and left on my desk when I hastily packed my things. "He told them you were mentally unstable and prone to violent outbursts, said you attacked him, and that hiring you would be a liability." Emma's voice was tight with rage. "The hiring manager is concerned, Lauren. He wants to rescind the offer." I sat in silence for a long moment, processing the depth of my father's cruelty. It wasn't enough to kick me out of the house. He wanted to destroy my future entirely. "Can they do that?" I asked. "Based on hearsay from a family member?" "Absolutely not," Emma said. "But we need to handle this strategically. Do you trust me?" The next morning, Emma and I met with her manager and the company's legal department at their downtown offices. I brought my phone, showing them Rachel's vindictive text messages and explaining the timeline of events. Emma had also obtained a copy of Dad's phone call from the company's standard call logging system, which was more damaging than I'd imagined. He'd rambled for nearly 10 minutes, making increasingly wild accusations and threatening to make sure nobody in this town ever hires her. He'd also mentioned his position on the local Chamber of Commerce board, turning his personal vendetta into an abuse of his professional platform. The legal team's reaction was swift and decisive. Within hours, they'd filed a formal complaint with the Chamber of Commerce and notified the state licensing board about potential harassment. Dad's consulting firm received a formal notice about their employees' conduct. The company offered me the position with a formal letter of protection, stating they'd defend against any future interference. But the real satisfaction came 2 weeks later. Dad called me, his voice strained and unfamiliar. "What did you do?" "I documented the truth," I said simply. "They fired me from the chamber. My consulting contracts are under review. People are asking questions." I felt a strange calm settle over me. "You made a choice when you tried to destroy my career. Actions have consequences." "You're my daughter," he said, and for the first time I heard something that might have been desperation. "No," I replied. "I'm the person you taught to fight for herself." Mom called the next day, crying, begging me to. "Fix this and make it right." Rachel left voicemails alternating between fury and fake sweetness, trying every manipulation that had worked when I was younger and more desperate for approval. But I was no longer the girl who would set herself on fire to keep them warm. 6 months later, after proving myself in my new role and earning a promotion that came with relocation assistance, I moved to a different city. My apartment is small but mine, filled with furniture I chose and books I actually want to read. I sleep through the night without waiting for someone to burst through the door with another crisis that's somehow my responsibility to solve. Dad lost 2 major consulting contracts and his chamber position when the harassment complaint was upheld. The family's social standing in their small-town circles crumbled when the harassment story spread through the professional networks he'd tried to poison against me. Rachel had to get her first job ever at a local retail store when their financial situation tightened, and Mom took a part-time position at a medical office to help with expenses. I don't take pleasure in their struggles, but I feel something I'd never experienced before. Peace, the constant anxiety, the walking on eggshells, the reflexive urge to make myself smaller to avoid conflict. All of it faded when I finally learned to value my own life as much as I'd valued theirs. Sometimes the people who claim to love you are the ones who need to face the hardest consequences. Not because you want to hurt them, but because learning to protect yourself is the most loving thing you can do for your own future. The day I signed my lease, I looked at my reflection in the bathroom mirror and saw someone I actually recognized. Not the family disappointment, not the backup plan, not the servant who existed to smooth everyone else's path. Just me, finally free to build the life I'd always dreamed of. They taught me I was disposable. I taught them I was irreplaceable. Before you go, here's a quick bonus for sticking around. If you love learning and growing like I do, you need to try audiobooks. I've got an exclusive deal with Audible. Your first month is completely free. That's